Now some, of course, are de-evolving and going the other way. But for the most part, most of us are progressing a little bit at a time. We're pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. So yes, we are growing as a whole. Gets better. But no, it's not going to be sudden. Okay, another question? Yes, ma'am? Yes, you? Yes, did you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. When you go to those other worlds, you said you've been to about 20 of them, were you ever sort of scared that you might not get back to this one, or you might not recognize it when you...
No, and that's a good thing to bring up. Fear is the thing that will prevent you from being successful at meditation or doing anything else that you want to do. Fear is the big inhibitor of these things. If you're going to do this, particularly if you're going to get out of the box and travel around, you must be fearless. You must not have that fear, because that fear will tie you here like a rope. And you cannot be concerned with that. You must accept however it is. You have to realize that the fear is very counterproductive. So no, you cannot have fear. I never think of that. That's not any concern of mine. Mostly anything you do, particularly at the beginning level, is very, very safe. Now, it is true that in the larger reality there's all kinds of things. You have a constriction on what can happen. Your physics kind of makes things tight. When you relax that, like you do when you get into what we call the non-physical, a lot more things can happen. We're a tiny subset. So yes, there are some very bad hombres out there, just like there are here. And they're even worse because there's less constraints there. So this is just a little subset of life forms. The life form grow immensely. So there are things that are more beautiful and more ugly there than you'll ever experience here. And there's some pretty beautiful and ugly things here. But it gets even broader and wider and deeper because there are fewer constraints on the evolution. But for the most part, nothing is going to hurt you. Nothing's going to bother you. Go out and explore. It's like walking in the park. You can walk in the nearby park here at noontime, and you have a very high probability that you will be safe and nothing will happen to you, particularly if it's at noontime, right? But there's also some remote probability that some deranged person will be standing behind a bush and they'll jump out and get you. Has happened. It's possible. But do you not walk in the park because of it? Do you stay home? Do you not drive your car because you're afraid you might get in an accident? Could happen. No, you just do it. Because you can't get to where you're going if you don't. And you don't want to sit sit in your house all your life. So you get out and do it. This is the same way. You just do it. Yes, there is a little bit of probability that you could get into trouble, but it's so small, don't worry about it. It's just not worth the worry. Very remote. Okay? How are we doing? Some more? Yes, ma'am? Yes, ma'am?
Is consciousness all the same in all other realities?
The consciousness is fundamental. It's the one fundamental reality. Now, that comes in all shapes and sizes just like it does here. On this planet, it's not just we humans that have consciousness. Dogs and cats and, ducks and pigeons, everything has consciousness. Everything that is sentient has consciousness. Even a little mushy-headed clam, at the bottom of the ocean. If it's got its foot out and you punch that foot, it'll jerk it in. That means it has awareness. Very limited awareness. Has a very tiny decision space. There's not a whole lot of decisions a clam can make. But it can make a few, and in the few that it can make, like whether to pull that foot in or not, it has free will. So all consciousness is fundamentally the same, but it comes in a huge variety of and states of forms. Yes, all over the place, consciousness is fundamentally the same. Another question? Yes, sir.
There's an overarching consciousness then, that the wills that we as individual examples of it develop. So do you have this view of this overarching consciousness that wants us to work to increase its evolution or its development? Is that what you think? Or is everybody, in other words, is there some sort of hierarchy of consciousness, or does everybody have an equal stake? And there isn't an overarching...
No, there is. The fundamental reality, let me put it this way, the fundamental reality is consciousness. You have to stop thinking in terms of separate things. Because we're in this physical reality, we want to put everything in its own box and make it separate. So we say, okay, there's this big thing, then that's over here, and over here's us, and over there's somebody else, and we kind of categorize and put it all in boxes. It's not like that. It's all one thing. You have consciousness, a digital information system And it's the whole thing. It's the big system. We're pieces of that system. We're not really separate from that system. We're just a part of that system. We're a subset. Okay, you and I, we're just subsets of that system. And all these other realities and all these virtual things, they're just different subsets of that system. So it's not like there's one thing, the ruler overall. It's not that way. It's just that we're all part of this large system. The system itself has an average entropy over the entire system. The system itself has a lot of digits. You can imagine we got this little subset that's very highly constrained, and we think we're pretty smart. What about a much bigger set that has a whole lot more of that, those bits to deal with? Okay, we're not talking about a dumb system here. We're talking about an intelligent system, and we're intelligent parts of that intelligent system. But think of it all as one thing rather than as separate things. Okay. So.
I just want to have your own opinion after doing all the traveling you've done. Have you ever wondered what for? What's the purpose of what comes after that? If we are all little cells, let's say, of that bigger purpose, what will come after that? What for?
What comes after what?
What comes after we all get to entropy and we get to that level of consciousness?
Okay, what happens? Well, we're in a cyclic learning situation now. So, we have this lifetime. I call it an experience packet. You do this experience packet. You kind of sign up to go to the elementary school, and you get in and you do your thing. And then when you're done, you get out and, you get graded. You get a review. You learn. You plan your next one. You say, all right, I need to do this better, and I'd like to do it this way, and maybe with these people and something. You plan it, and then you go do that. So you go through a lot of cycles, and each time you lower your entropy just a little bit. Okay, eventually you'll get to the point where your energy is pretty low, and it's like you climb out of the petri dish and go into the laboratory. You get to understand and exist on a much larger scale, and that keeps going up for a long time. It's not like this is going to happen next week. It's a long process, but you maintain your personal identity in the sense that you have all of the data of all the things you've ever been and done. That's you. And you're the only one that's been that way. But at the same time, you become one, if you will, with all that is, because if you get to the point of zero entropy, that's not possible, because even the whole system itself is not zero entropy. It's just learning. The big system is evolving as well. It's not static. It's not that we're the little people evolving inside the big system that's static. The big system is evolving. So everything is growing. So you don't get to the end point. The end point is still moving. If you ever get to the end point, then the system dies. If it can't evolve, it will die. So it continues to evolve. We become a part of it. The bigger our perspective and the more we understand, the lower our entropy is, then we just get bigger and bigger pictures to where we live all over it. We just don't live in this one little reality anymore. We live in 100 different realities simultaneously. We just can have a bigger view. So there really isn't an end point that it gets to. It's a continuous learning thing. Yes? Last question.
Was the meditation the only technique that was used by which you could reach those consciousnesses?
No, meditation isn't the only one. And, maybe I could answer that either way, because I can define almost anything as meditation.